Hey guys, welcome to another video from the Parrott Bros. Now we have a special one here today. Now this does look relatively stock, but believe me, it is not. This is a sleeper at over 400 horsepower. Who would know? But I tell you what, before we get stuck into it, let's jump into that intro. So Carl, let's talk about the TT.
Yes.
How long have you had it?
I bought the car in March of 2022, so I've had the car 11 months now total. I bought it sort of end of March, so yeah, 11 months we're looking at so far.
That is mental. So you've owned your car less than a year and you've achieved everything I want to achieve in the 4 years I've had mine, and still not quite there. To be fair though, if it was a quick journey, the channel would be very boring.
Yes, yeah.
So why a TT then?
Interestingly, from the age of 16, 17, when I was getting into cars, I thought, right, what's something's achievable for myself that won't cost me £1 million and I like and I love the look of? And I set myself a goal for a TT and I put it on the back burner for a while until I sort of was able to do other things, and I thought to myself, do you know what, now's the time, let's get a TT.
Yeah, brilliant. And did you always plan to do a load of work to it? Have you always been a sort of a tuner at heart, you modifier and tuner?
Yes and no. I've always thought to myself, I'd rather do the work myself because I feel more involved with it. It makes me feel better about the car. I know the history if I'm doing it. The amount of work that's been done, it's completely out of my realm. I knew that I had to take it to someone who knew exactly what they were doing and knew the platform. So I did. I took it to Badger 5.
So this car, when you got it, was standard, had a few mods?
This car, when I bought it, was completely stock, had nothing on it. It even had the original brake pads from Audi. They were just Audi ones, they weren't Brembo replacements. The car has nothing on it. It was completely stock.
So the people who bought it weren't obviously tuners or boy racers or anything,
No,
which is, to be fair, is getting harder and harder to find. Is that kind of what drew you to this car then?
Yeah, finding a clean one was the hardest thing for me. It took me a good 3 weeks to find the colour that I wanted, the interior I wanted, and a clean car.
It's Avis, right?
Avis, yeah. Avis
so it's not just silver.
Nope.
How many did you look at?
I looked at 4 cars before I got to this one. The first few had rust. One of them, the engine really wasn't healthy, but I had to travel to North London to actually find this one.
Did this kind of come into the budget you were looking for, or did you sort of go and look at some crap ones and then the budget kind of grew as you went?
I set myself an achievable budget. I knew that around the 3,000, like 2.5, 3, I thought to myself that's achievable looking at the market of them. But yeah, this one was slightly above, but I knew that it was clean. I knew it had a good history, so I knew it was worth buying.
Cool. So once you bought the car 11 months ago, may I add, then what?
I drove the car around for 2 months, 3 months, and I really enjoyed it. And then my brain started ticking. I was like, oh, a little bit more power would be nice.
Late night interneting.
a little bit more power would be nice. Okay, the brakes are awful. It's going to need them. And I thought to myself, right, what route can I look down to get that? And I thought, right, stage 1, okay, it needs this. Stage 2 needs this. And then I looked at it and I went, right, the engines are good. The rods are awful. They're like chocolate. They go at about 280, 300. And I thought to myself, if I want more than that, I'm going to have to do a build. And I thought to myself, right, if you're going to do it all or nothing, you do it properly. And that's the route I had to take, and the route I did, and I'm really glad I did.
And who did the build?
So build was done by Badger 5. Bill and Alex there, hats off to them. They built an amazing car. I can't thank them enough for it. They had it for 3 months. And yeah, just the quality of work these guys did, they knew exactly what I'm about.
I mean, the bay's gorgeous. It's so clean and simple.
It's exactly what I was looking for. I didn't want complicated. They literally, the way they explained to me, said, it'll have this, 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 and this, and it will go like stink. And I was like, perfect. Yeah,
because your ethos is you're not chasing figures, are you?
You
just wanted to be a decent, reliable daily, may I add, daily
driver.
daily power?
Yeah, I set myself a sort of a goal of 400-ish, 380, 400, and I thought it's not worth having more than that, because any more than that, I'll start going into gearboxes, I'll start going into traction issues, Haldex might throw a hissy fit.
It's all the things that there is, because there is like a line, isn't there? Each stage you go, there becomes a line
Yeah.
of, by adding an extra 50 horsepower, you could destroy your gearbox, which means then you need to
Yes.
spend thousands and thousands of pounds on a gearbox. And
They were
you
expensive.
may need a bigger inlet manifold, which again is £1,000. It's
Yeah.
all snowball. So you have gone for arguably a very simple yet effective route, which is literally just custom front mount intercooler,
Yep,
G25 Garrett turbo,
yep.
and then just the pipe work adapted for that. So the exhaust, and you've
Yeah.
had obviously rods.
It's got rods.
No pistons.
It's got the original pistons with 130,000 miles on them. It's got a full custom back exhaust, all the intake, all the piping, and then yeah, it was.
And it's had some headwork, so it's had valves and springs.
It's had valves and springs, yeah, just to allow it to flow a little bit better. And then what I said to them was, I want the reliability. Said this will do that. It will keep it consistent. You haven't
and
got
it
to worry about
sounds
it.
wicked. I mean, so the exhaust, talk us through the exhaust quickly.
So the exhaust it's a catless exhaust. It's straight off the back of the turbo. It has a silencer midway through, and then it's into a back box where it's basically a valved system. So when the car starts building boost at about 3,000, basically the valve opens and basically creates a full straight through system just to allow it to flow so much better. But when it's not in boost, it sounds pretty stock, pretty normal.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you pulled up at mine, you could hear that it had a modified exhaust,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like when we went for a drive, and you'll see when we go for a drive in a minute, it doesn't sound like the world's coming to an end when you're just pootling through town, which is, I guess,
Yeah,
what you wanted.
I didn't want it to be obnoxious. That was the main thing. Where I live, I don't think my neighbours would appreciate an early morning cold start.
Yeah.
So it was sort of the fact is I want it to be somewhat quiet and slightly sleeperish. So if I'm driving past, you're not going to know what's in it.
Oh, exactly. And how many people have you upset with this car?
I upset some Porsche Boxster and Cayman owners, which they weren't expecting.
Well, the thing is as well is I guess you can catch people off guard because everyone, if you know cars, you know a TT is probably between 220 and 280 brake.
Yeah.
As a ballpark. If you had, say, an M3 or an M4 or something like that, you're not
Yeah.
expecting it to give chase properly.
No, yeah, it's been interesting to see what has come after it and what's lost and what's not. And I think, okay, it stacks up.
Or you pushed people and it's like, why am I struggling
stacks
here?
up pretty good against a few of my friends, and they think, how the hell does that thing keep up? But no, it does upset a few people because they don't expect it coming. But no, it's exactly how I wanted it. I wanted it slightly sleeperish until you put your foot down, then you know something's going on. But that was the main thing for me.
I think you've achieved it, mate. I think we should call it a day there and get out in the car.
Oh, it's a great idea. Let's go.
Let's go. So, I mean, day-to-day driving, it's actually quite nice. But that chatter off of that is hilarious because the cone filter is literally just the other side of the dash.
It's right there.
Even if you give it a little, it's like... that turbo.
It's
massive.
just there.
If you go where that.
That one.
Right, yeah.
That's fine.
But I mean, you wouldn't really know. It almost, from the inside, it almost just sounds like you've got a big cone filter and a cat back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, it's got that kind of thing. Whereas I guess now, if you were to like drop into second gear, it's going to launch to.
Yeah, drop into third a little bit second, and then.
And that's effortless. Like,
That wasn't full either.
and you've got this on. What's the HPA set on? Like 50/50?
Yeah, it's just in dynamic, which is just 50/50. So when I installed it, you could tell it really pushed more from the rear.
Yeah. Well, that's because obviously normally it's predominantly front wheel, and then it throws it where it needs it. Whereas this is obviously going to put it.
Yeah.
And did you notice that was a big difference? Because you had the car built,
Yes.
and then you added that after.
So I only added that about a month ago. So I've had the car fully built for probably 5 months, 6 months. And then I thought, okay, it's good, but it doesn't go like I want it to.
Yeah.
looked at what's out there, what works, and HPA was what everyone recommended. They went,
It's kind of the only really go-to.
Yeah, that's the only one that everyone was
Especially
saying.
because you can change it if you don't like it. You can add a little bit more, change it, play with it, whatever.
It's so adjustable.
And you think that made the biggest difference to how the car just feels in general?
100%. It really, if you're going around a corner and you want to punch it out, it really pushes out of corners now instead of sort of pulling itself.
I just love how this feels just like just a normal drive in a TT. It's funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess you take people out in this and they don't know, unless you've told them about it, they don't know what it's all about as such.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I took them out in it, and he knows a little bit about cars, and he basically said, he was like, oh, you've got an intake, got an exhaust. Like, it's just got that. And I put my foot down, went on a big section of open road, and he was like, oh my gosh.
What boost does the turbo run?
22 PSI.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
At full chat, it will do 22, but ironically, this builds boost at the same point RPM range as the original.
As a KO4,
so it still kicks in at 2,800 and then pulls hard all the way to 7 grand.
It's 3 times the size.
Yeah, it's a big old turbo.
You can see why the G25 is popular. I mean, everyone, literally, if they're going big turbo, G25, unless they're going bigger, G25 is the way to go, because it's just so tunable. It picks up from such a low range. It goes right up.
It pulls all the way through. So I've got the dyno log for it as well, and you can just see it just pulls all the way, and it doesn't even dip at the top. It just keeps going all the way to 7,000.
Awesome.
Which was the main thing. I just didn't want it to drop off at all.
Well, yeah, you don't want it to be a laggy. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing, and then just
then everything. Yeah.
Because this again, you can literally just drop. Do you know what I mean? Drop a gear and it's there ready to go. I mean, I'm guessing even in like a higher gear, say instead of dropping to second, you drop to third, you've still got.
It will still go and still pull hard. It just might take a little bit longer to get into boost, but I've never really had a problem with it ever having a huge amount of lag.
Yeah. So let's see what this is like on a point. So go from second or third? What's the best gear? Because obviously these gearboxes are crap.
They're not the best. I'll go from second, so it's about 2,000 RPM, and then just roll into it as full.
That is wicked.
Yeah.
The only way to explain that is literally just. I'm trying to think in words how I can explain that. It goes from nothing to everything, and then when you change gear, everything doesn't change.
It keeps going.
So it's like
and pulls and pulls.
It's like all the torque that you're using. As soon as you change gear, it's exactly where it was in the last gear, as if you've just extended the gear.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it doesn't have that weird lag where, even in KO4s they do it, where you change gear and it sort of has a little, not hesitation, but it doesn't have full boost.
It takes a second to get going again, and then it goes.
Whereas that is literally like you've got a sequential and you're just knocking gears and it's just picking up from where it left off. And the front even lifted a tiny bit. I felt the front wheels go a tiny bit loose.
From second, it chirps the front wheels a little bit. But after top end of second, third, I've never had it happen. Even in the wet, this thing.
It's just mad because we got the standard tape player. I'm sat looking at everything other than, apart from the HPA controller and the steering wheel and some gauges, which is the same as in mine. Yeah. Is stock, but that thing just. It's like
goes.
A stabbed rat. It just.
There's third.
Third, yeah. It's just keeps you pinned. TT.
I don't think he's got as much as this
I
does,
don't think so.
But
it's
it's ludicrous in the way that.
Oh man, if this is your everyday car.
I have a work van, and then I have this for sort of if I ever need to go anywhere else. Yeah. This is what I take, but I do drive it.
What are people's reactions when you give it some of that? Especially when they're not expecting it, like.
It is a shock. It's quite entertaining to watch their reaction more than anything.
I'm surprised you haven't got a little light. We'll call it a dash cam, but just flip it the other way around.
I really should. A lot of the time, it's actually pedestrians. If you're going past and you buzz past them, they turn their head and go, "What the hell is that thing?" That's what I find more often. But
mate, that is phenomenal. And I can see why. Because I mean, arguably, a build like this is not cheap, because obviously you've got to factor in the engine's coming out. You're doing engine work. Yes. As soon as you do that, and if you buy a decent manifold, I'm guessing this is on a Nortec or?
No, it's a stock intake manifold.
No, exhaust manifold.
Oh, Nortec, yeah.
Yeah, Nortec. So like £1,000 worth of manifold, 1,500 quid if you do manifold
Yeah.
and downpipe. So it's not a cheap process. But then again,
No.
if you do the KO 4-way and buy all the proper bits and do it the proper way, you're still
Yeah.
going to be 4 or 5 grand by the time you
Yeah.
finish. So arguably you save up a little while longer and you just have something that is just so much more special. And I can't get over the fact that's a stock gearbox and it just takes it.
Ironically,
takes it.
I have a spare gearbox sitting at home in the garage.
I may or may not have a spare gearbox at home in the garage.
Yes.
Oh, but they're like 100 quid.
Oh, I picked mine up
Like-
for 75.
Exactly. So that's negligible. I mean, the clutch obviously loves it.
Yeah,
It's made for it. So
I've never had slip with the clutch. Yeah, it's easy going. But the gearbox I've never had a problem with. I've changed the fluid in it when I first got the car, and ever since it just takes it and it doesn't really care. As long as I don't, from what Alex and Bill said at Badger, they were just like, as long as you're not being an idiot with it, where you're just dropping the clutch, from
sidestepping it, and
dropping the clutch from second and just going, it will handle it. As long as you just roll into it and let it.
Well,
do
the clutch
its
is
thing.
taking up the worst of it, and then it's
it's not bad.
It's just such a. I think you're at that real sweet spot of
Yeah.
usability, practicality,
Yep.
not horrifically invested as such, because obviously once you get
No.
to £3,000 on a gearbox strengthening kit and all that kind of stuff, then it's
That's the way I looked at it. I said
the snowball effect.
it is completely the snowball effect. Is once you go, oh, I've got this turbo, I want more power. However, I'm going to need new gearbox. I'm going to need axles.
Oh, you're going to snap drive shafts. You're going to
Exactly.
blow the Haldex.
And I
What
think this point of where it's at, with the power it's at, it's not to say perfect, but it's ideal.
I mean, it's a light car. They're nimble, and at 418, was it?
418 horsepower it made on Badger 5's dyno.
And what was the foot pound on that?
I think it was about 300. I've got the dyno sheet in the glove box, so I'll find that later.
Yeah.
I think
There's a
it's-
load of paper
It's that
here.
top
we'll
one.
have it.
It's
Oh,
that
yeah.
top one actually. Yeah, you can
That's
see the
it, yeah.
Badger logo. That was the power figures from it.
416 horsepower with 368 foot-pound.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it takes off and stays there.
Yeah, it doesn't drop off at all.
And for anyone sort of thinking about doing this, is it worth it?
If you're thinking about going stage 2, and if you're thinking about going stage 2 and you know you're going to want more, do it. It's so worth it, because it is the snowball effect from stage 1, stage 2.
Yeah.
What else?
Wait a little while and then, but it's just so endearing, isn't it? That's quality.
Yeah, it is the snowball effect of, if you're thinking about stage 1, you know you're going to want stage 2.
But then obviously you go stage 2 to stage 3, you can't reuse the downpipe, turbo.
No, that's
The cooler's going to have to change. So it's
yeah. There is a big jump from stage 2 to what I'm now at,
yeah.
because of the parts that are needed, and it is more expensive. However, looking at what you get
Yeah.
for them, not to say for the value for money, but comparable.
Yeah, and I
So-
mean, if you're going to save up, it's probably worth saving up for that little bit longer to just do
Yes.
this and then
Yeah, completely.
not touch it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's done.
Yeah, if you know you're going to want a big power car, I would say just go for it.
Mate, so I mean, thank you for showing me the car. I think this is phenomenal. And to be fair, this has given me food for thought, because I'm in that weird stage where
Yeah.
obviously I could do a hybrid, but then I'm going to pull the engine, and then if I pull the engine to do the hybrid, is it worth just waiting a few months,
And
saving up? Because obviously I want to do a China fold, but then you can't get China folds. It becomes this whole
yeah, it's a big loophole. Of
yeah,
where
like
do you go?
how many times do I want to do this dance, and am I going to want a bit more? Yeah, of course I'm going to want a bit more.
Of course.
And but no, I mean, I hope everyone's enjoyed this. This thing is an animal, and if you ever see it out, remember the reg. Don't try and race it.
Good luck if you do.
Especially if you're trying to show off to someone. But mate, thanks for coming down. Appreciate it.
More than welcome.
And if anyone wants to know anything about it, I'll put down Carl's Instagram in the thing. You want to drop him a message. There's not too much on there, but I'm sure you can.
No, I've just recently started like a TT page, but
Yeah.
yeah, if you ever want to know anything, any specs about the car, just ask.
And for builds, you know where Badger is. You know how to contact him.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, catch you on the next one, guys. Bye for now.